Hello, Ross Montgomery here, and welcome to my exclusive reading session with Moon Lane TV, which is very exciting. I am a children's author and I've written lots of books over the last few years. I'll give you some examples. First of all, I've done some picture books with the illustrator David Litchfield. This one is Space Tortoise. Before that, we also did one called The Building Boy, just there. There we go, that's David Litchfield, the illustrator of books such as The Bear and the Piano. But I also have done loads of other books. Mainly, to be honest, I write middle grade books. So I'm going to go through them all, but in reverse order. The most recent one was Max and the Millions. It's a story about a boy who discovers a tiny ant-sized world living on his bedroom floor. We have Perigee and Me, the story of a girl who discovers an alien on the island where she lives. We have a collection of short stories, Christmas Dinner of Souls, but not just any short stories. These are Christmas-themed horror stories, perfect for the horrible child in your life. And also, The Tornado Chasers. This was part of the Book Trust Book Buzz scheme. And my very, very first book, Alex the Dog and the Unopenable Door, which was shortlisted for the Costa Award in 2013. I've also written my very first Barrington Stoke short novella recently called Rock Bottom. This is a short and very silly story about a boy who is so in love that he decides to wreck his school play on opening night for revenge, but also for love. But I'm not going to be talking about these books today. I'm going to be talking about a book I'm very excited to introduce to you. It is my brand new book. It's out on the 5th of November, and it's this one, The Midnight Guardians, with an amazing front cover that I'm still obsessed with, by David Dean. Take a look at that. The Midnight Guardians is the story about a young boy called Cole, who discovers that his imaginary friends, the ones that he thought he had forgotten about and left behind, have not been left behind. They've come to life to take him on a magical quest to save his sister before it is too late. The story, you might have noticed, just from the designs on the front cover, is set in the Blitz of December 1940, when Britain was being bombed almost every single night by enemy planes. Cole has to get from one end of the country, from Buxton, where he's been evacuated, all the way back to London to save his sister with his guardians, who you can see on the front cover there. We have a shape-shifting tiger named Pendlebury, who can grow to the size of a mouse, or taller than trees in the space of a second. A badger in a waistcoat called Mr. Noakes. Hopefully that autofocus will very quickly focus on that front cover at some point. No, it hasn't. Never mind. And also we have a knight in shining armour called the King of Rogues, who is extremely courageous, but also very, very, very annoying. There's also, you might have noticed, a mysterious young girl on the front cover there, who I'm not going to tell you anything about. Ha! I had loads of inspiration when I was writing this book. I think that, on the one hand, I wanted to write a story that felt like the classic kids' books that I read when I was a boy. Stories that were filled with sort of magical folklore characters, like giants and fairies and enchanted trees. But were also set during a time that in some respects felt very different to where we live now. I wanted to have a go writing a story that was set during the Second World War, and for me that's really new. Normally when I write a book, they're set in a sort of slightly made-up world, where I can make up the rules, I can make up the geography. This time it was totally different. This time I was having to set my book during real-life events, over, I think it's 9 days of December 1940, including real-life things that actually happened. A lot of the book is set during or within Brixton and Herne Hill, where up until very, very recently I lived. Yes, I don't want to give away too much because they're real things that actually happen in the story. Normally, when I read an extract of this book, I tend to read either the very opening chapter, which is sort of short and sets the tone of the book, or I read the moment where the main character, Cole, actually sees his guardians, his imaginary friends, alive and in front of him for the very first time. But because this is Moon Lane TV, I wanted to read an exclusive extract that might not have been read out before. So instead, I'm going to introduce a very important character in this book, the Midwinter King. When Cole goes on his quest from Buxton to London, he doesn't realise that he's being followed. And he's not being followed by just anyone. He's being followed by the Lord of all Darkness, a terrifying evil character who has his own reasons for stopping Cole's quest. What I'd like to do is read you a short extract from a chapter that I'm very proud of, which is the first time that we see the Midwinter King. Again, this was a chance for me to try and write passages that made me think about all those classic kids' books that I read when I was younger. Stories with terrifying evil characters like The Dark is Rising by Susan Cooper or The Weird Stone of Risen Gaiman by Alan Garner. And I wanted to have a go really creating my very own character, seeing if I could do it. So without any further ado, here is your exclusive reading from The Midnight Guardians. The chapter is called The Burnt Throne. And in fact, before I start, I do just want to show you these amazing headers that you get at the top of every single chapter. In fact, again, not giving away too much, those headings change throughout the book, and the way they do it is really clever. The Burnt Throne. The forest was dead for miles in every direction. The trees were dead. The ground they stood on was dead. Nothing had grown here for as long as anyone could remember. There were some who believed the terrible crime had been committed here centuries ago and cursed the land. That was the reason, they said, why nothing grew here. Others said it was worse than that. They said that a monster lived in this forest. That was the reason, they said, for the fear you felt in the pit of your stomach when you walked among the dead trees. Others said this was nonsense. They were just stories made to frighten people, and people believed them so much that they felt true. That was the reason, they said, for the sickness you felt in your heart when you even so much as thought of the forest. They were all wrong. If they could somehow look through the forest to the world that lay beneath it, just a hair's breadth away, they would understand. They would watch the trees shift and disappear, to be replaced by a black blasted cliff top, rising hundreds of feet above a world of darkness. They would see the throne, vast and desolate, bursting from the stone and spreading into the sky like an abomination. They would see the man sitting inside it. It was wrong to call him a man. There was only where he was and where he was not. The Midwinter King opened his eyes. They were not really eyes. They saw much, much more than simply what lay ahead of them. They could see inside thoughts, over walls, under stones. From his throne, the Midwinter King could search the minds of every single one of his subjects. He'd never known power like it. He had more control over the spirit world than ever before. And in the world beyond, our world, he was bringing the worst storms that he had ever created. His powers were growing stronger and stronger with every passing moment, and nothing seemed to be stopping them. Until now. And that's all I'm going to read you from that chapter, because I don't want to give away too much. It's an interesting chapter for me to choose to read, because a lot of this book, the stories that I write, I always set out to make funny, and I set to make exciting and humorous at the same time. But you can probably tell from my mentioning of Christmas Dinner of Souls, my book of Christmas horror stories, I do also like writing scary things as well. There's nothing I love more than working that balance between something being funny and silly, but also maybe being a little bit more serious and maybe a bit frightening as well. That's the kind of stories that I loved reading when I was a child, and I hope some of you will enjoy reading too. Now, on to my activity. Ooh, it's a tricky one to choose, but I think I have a perfect idea for what to do. When I created the Midnight Guardians, the first thing I needed to do was come up with 3 imaginary friends, a whole gang of them. And so I chose 3 characters, Pendlebury, Mr. Noakes, the King of Rogues, who I thought would work really well together. A shape-shifting tiger who can change size at will, a badger in a waistcoat with an amazing sense of smell, and a super courageous knight who's amazing at fighting and getting rid of dozens of enemies at once. I liked the idea that they were quite strange and different characters that were taken from all different bits of Cole's childhood, but also each one of them had their own special ability. Which leads me to your activity. I would like you to design your own gang of guardians. Imagine that you had your own imaginary friends who were there to protect you, who were there to fight alongside you. Who would you have? What would their skills be? Would you have animal characters that maybe had amazing special skills? Would you have characters from history that came to life? Would you make up something completely weird and have characters with tentacles and 78 eyes who are really good at accounts? I don't know. This is your challenge. Design yourself your own Guardians gang. As many different characters as you like. If you just want to have 1 imaginary character, that's fine. If you want to have 3, go for it. If you want to have 5 completely different ones, go for it. But what I would like you to do is make each of them unique and different, and I would like you to give each one its own special skill. My advice would be, start off by drawing them. I often find, even if you are maybe not that confident about drawing, I find drawing down your ideas can often help give you an idea of actually what you want that character to be like. When you start drawing them, you might go, oh yeah, actually, what kind of clothes would they wear? And actually, picking things like clothes for characters, or even something like a hairstyle, can help give you an idea of what they might be like. Start thinking about the objects they might carry with them. And as you go along, make notes about your character as you're thinking up ideas for them. Ways they might speak, ways they might move. You could even come up with a backstory for them, as well as, importantly, a name. Once you've come up with a drawing of your Guardians gang, and all those different characters and their skills and what they look like, see if you can write a story about them. See if you can write the moment in the story when those Guardians come to life. Or, if you want, design a quest for them. What quest would you go on with your Guardians? Would they be protecting you from something? Would they be taking you into their own world because you're the only one who can help? Or would they maybe know that something terrible is going on in the country and only you and them working together can do it? I hope you enjoyed the activity. I hope you enjoyed listening to me reading an extract from the Midnight Guardians. And please do order your copy, because it's really good. I would say it's the perfect book for reading over Christmas, but that's the sort of thing I'd say anyway. Thank you so much for listening to me today. Have a lovely rest of your day, and good evening. Bye-bye.